Today, I want to talk about mental illness as a fad. This is an extremely sensitive issue right now on social because I think there's a lot of people out there posting and using mental illness as a way to garner attention. There's people faking symptoms of autism, symptoms of Tourette syndrome, expressing suicidality in the hopes of getting attention. In a way that isn't authentic to the concern of committing suicide. I mean, it's a dangerous world out there on social and in the avenues of mental illness, mental health, help seeking, and authentic expression of mental illness. I'm worried for young adults and the type of positive or negative feedback that can be gained from using mental illness as a way to get people's attention or to stand out from a crowd. And I think it's a huge problem that nobody has quite solved. And when I look at the culprit of the problem, I come back to the generation above. I come back to parents, teachers, the life we've set up for young adults to exist within. When I look at an issue manifesting in a child, it's typically, especially a young child, it's typically something that they've picked up and they've received some sort of positive or negative feedback along the way. I'm not saying we need to blame parents for the fact that there's all this kind of confusion in the world, but I think we have to ask individuals to take responsibility for the way that their children act. And there's a lot of pointing from one generation to the other to say, oh, this new generation is so screwed up. Well, perhaps there are some aspects of that. There's also, a healthy dose of responsibility that the generation that raised these children have to take. And neither one is to blame. The kids are not to blame. The parents are not to blame. The teachers, everything in between. It's all just part of the natural process of evolution for human beings. However, I think we have an opportunity to do a better job of creating the appropriate forums for individuals to find the validation that they're seeking online. And the expression of mental illness is a dangerous road to go down if that is a attention-seeking avenue. It's also as dangerous as substance abuse. It's dangerous as any other way of acting out in the hopes of getting attention. And it's just important not to blame individuals who are doing this as being bad. It's important not to blame their parents or other people in their life. It's important to do is build up the systems and the capabilities around these individuals so that they're not continually scarred by the expression of these things later in life. I think we can recognize that a lot of the experimentation on social media is the expression of adolescent naivete, and in the form of a everlasting digital content product that has the potential to plague this individual for the rest of their life. I think about the implications of posting a video that goes viral or whatever, and has significant later in life ramifications, especially to a young adult who doesn't have a fully developed mind. So obviously it's going to be attractive for this time period to put out content on media that goes away, Snapchat, etc. But there's a lot of media out there that is going to persist forever. And one will have to try very hard to get that content off and out of their reputation. So that's obviously one first step, is to introduce the idea of the permanence of these types of pieces of content, which I'm sure most parents are doing. The second, though, I think, is to be aware of your participation with the content. Does it fire you up? Do you have a tendency to blame people? Do you have a tendency to suggest that like there's something wrong with other people? I tend to think radical acceptance of responsibility is typically the best way to approach making positive change, meaning that when I see bad in the world, it's usually because of me. It's not because of other people. It's usually because I have something in myself that is a reflection of my own lack of an ability to be a transcendent, kind of being. And some would say me expressing my karma or samsara, the regular cycle of the translation of consciousness. But I um, I am the source of that bad in the world. So if I'm seeing these types of things, I have to ask myself, what can I do about it? Instead of seeking to go outside of myself and suggest that somebody else does something about the issue. So I would ask, what is your role in combating or approaching or rectifying these types of things if you, like me, believe that we're on the precipice of using mental illness as an attention-seeking character trait, which is fundamentally not an empowering mindset. The lack of agency, the identity politics around using mental illness to describe who you are as an individual is a regression in my mind to group mentalities, to infighting, to systems of disconnected systems of difference, really, like identity politics down to like I'm creating differences between human beings. And again, I think this is something that our modern world is invested in propagating, in creating these identity politics and these divisions between human beings, because it becomes easier to profit off of human suffering if we think that we are different from one another. If we think that because you're different than I don't need to listen to you. It's because you're different than me that I don't have to take anything that you say seriously and learn from you because you don't understand my situation. That is an extraordinarily divisive and frankly detrimental perspective that is pervasive in modern day. And I think we have a huge hill to climb in terms of changing our internal dialogue and rhetoric towards not being one that's divisive. And when we use mental illness as a way to play cards, to get attention, to express difference with the hope of superseding responsibility or somebody else's opinion of you, or a escapist tactic to divert attention from the reality of what somebody may be doing, I think that's just a toxic thought line that we have a duty to, we don't have a duty, but we have an opportunity to eradicate from the human psyche such that we don't continue to divide ourselves from people who are like us. Everybody is like us, but there is an invested interest in dividing human beings by race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation. Mental illness is just another one that is being thrown out there to divide people instead of bring them together. And when we start to use these terms to describe ourselves in a public forum, we are eroding our connectedness. And that is going to be something that I hope we can figure out for the future generations before it's too late.